Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Alejandra Garcia from teleSUR Studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. Authorities report over 100 casualties and 200 injured after an Israeli airstrike targeted a gathering of starved Palestinians waiting for humanitarian aid packages at the Kuwait roundabout in southern Gaza. Civil Defense spokesperson Mahmoud Basal revealed that Israeli warplanes initially opened live fire at Palestinians waiting for aid. Then the occupation's artillery shelled the roundabout, committing the massacre. The casualties were transported to 4 different hospitals in Gaza City and northern Gaza. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Health in Gaza said rescue missions to pull out individuals from underneath the rubble are still ongoing despite the difficulties and dangers of the field. In Palestine, human rights organizations reiterate their call to meet humanitarian needs in the Gaza Strip, combined with an immediate and permanent ceasefire to ensure full and safe access to aid. This is how Gazans face a crisis-level hunger at the highest rate ever recorded by the Integrated Food Security Phase classification. Families have been drinking contaminated water for months and spending days without food. In this regard, health authorities pointed out that at least 20 children have died recently from severe malnutrition, dehydration, and related illnesses. In turn, the Israeli regime continues to prevent humanitarian access while aid drops are taking place over the area. This aid does not meet the demand of the 2.3 million people who face a catastrophic situation of survival. Citizens in the town of Khan Yunis, south of the Gaza Strip, on Tuesday denounced the total devastation of their neighborhood as a result of the total Israeli siege. In this way, Gaza residents lamented the destruction of their homes as they were able to return to them after the withdrawal of the occupation forces from the Hamad neighborhood. Meanwhile, the Palestinian Red Crescent Society reported that its teams managed to recover the bodies of 15 martyrs in that area. It should be noted that after 161 days of genocide in the Gaza Strip, the number of Palestinians killed by Israeli has risen to 31,774 and more than 73,134 wounded, mostly children and women.
Soy Abu Samer Fedjani.
I am Abu Samer Fetiani, from the city of Hamad, from Tower 7. We went out. The Jews took us out, threatening us with invasion and a belt of fire. We went out through the road to Halabah, and we came back 10 days later. What is this? The city was not like this. We are peaceful people. We are civilians, and they know it very well. And this is happening to us. Is this the program of the State of Israel? Like this? First, the planes came in to cover the tanks that raided Hamad. They dropped stun bombs. Those bombs were worse than missiles. They caused riots and panic. We all gathered in our apartment on the first floor. When it was done, they ordered us to leave with a megaphone, to all leave Hamad. They dropped leaflets. Then they said no, don't go out, which calmed us down. And then they said, everyone to leave for Asda. They had set up checkpoints there. We had to evacuate just like that, without taking anything with us.
On the first Friday of Ramadan, Israeli occupation forces prevented thousands of worshippers from reaching the Al-Aqsa Mosque. The occupation forces were deployed extensively around the checkpoints of Kaldalinja to the north of Jerusalem, Saitona to the east, and Bethlehem to the south. The agents turned back thousands of worshippers and did not allow them to reach Al-Aqsa Mosque under the pretext of not obtaining the necessary permits. They also prevented all the medical teams of the Jerusalem institutions from entering the mosque and attacked several of them. In Palestine, a new ceasefire proposal was presented by Hamas, according to the organization spokesperson. The proposal is based upon what they consider essential for any agreement, so let's see the main request. The proposal has a first-time period of 45 days based on a prisoner swap. The initial release of Israelis would include women, children, elderly, and ill captives in return of 1,500 Palestinian prisoners, with Hamas to nominate 500 of them who are sentenced to long or life sentences. All detainees from both sides would be released in a second stage under Hamas plan. The project also includes a temporary halt to military operations, end of aerial exploration, and the reposition of Israeli forces for far outside the populated areas in the entire Gaza Strip. Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and more. All the stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back. In Mexico, President Andrés Manuel López Obrador, during his governmental morning press conference, evaluated and praised the improvements of the Mexicali city in matters of economy, security, and social warranties. At the press conference were present Marina del Pilar Ávila, Baja California Governor, and Luis Crescencio Sandoval, National Defense Secretary, among other attendants. The head of state also encouraged the tribute to the national historical memory and to the extensive culture of the country. One of the main subjects of these statements was the role of the family as a protective factor against drug addiction. President Obrador also showed his concern about the fentanyl consumption in the U.S.
Think about how American brothers and sisters are suffering because of drug use, which is a pandemic. The use of fentanyl, which unfortunately leads to the loss of 100 young people every year, and among other factors. We believe that it has to do with the fact that young people have to leave their families at an early age, something that does not happen in our country.
The government of Venezuela denounces the complicity of the Argentine justice system with the states in the theft of the plane owned by Venezuelan company teleSUR. The Vice President Delcy Rodriguez pointed out that Argentine officials delivered the aircraft to the U.S. Department of Justice to later destroy it. She indicated that these actions are in addition to the more than 930 illegal sanctions imposed by the extreme right wing against the Venezuelan state and people. In response, the government of Venezuela prohibited the overflight of its airspace by any aircraft coming from or bound for Argentina, in full exercise of the international principle of proportionality. Colombian President Gustavo Petro will meet with the indigenous peoples participating in the Minga with the objective of listening to their requests and those of the peasants. The native peoples demanded to have a greater participation in the peace dialogues, an idea they will present to President Petro and Vice President Francia Marquez. In the midst of the mobilization, the social groups held a meeting with the Minister of the Interior and the delegates representing the Congressional Peace Commission, to whom they delivered a document with their request to the executive. The indigenous, Afro and peasant movements demand a greater presence of security officials in their territories in order to eradicate the growing violence.
We are here for life, for peace, but also to be with the Colombian government to implement this national development plan with the communities to de-escalate the war.
We defend the popular mandate, and we invite you so that now, about noon, Puerto Resistencia talk with the President and Vice President about the compliance of the agreements that today are national development plans. The Minga of the Southwest is reactivated, and we call the other social and popular forces to come together to defend this popular mandate.
In Argentina, a few meters from the Congress, police repressed a demonstration against layoffs at the National Institute of Cinema and Audiovisual Arts. Through a large repressive operation, members of the police of the city of Buenos Aires attacked hundreds of people who were protesting in front of the historic Gaumont Cinema located in the Plaza de los Dos Congresos. The agents used tear gas, paper gas, shields and batons. The peaceful protest, led by union organizations of Inca workers, documentary filmmakers, artists and actors, denounced the serious underfunding of the sector, the dismissal of at least 138 people in the last few days, and the intention to close the centenary Gaumont Cinema.
There have been a lot of productions stopped since the government started, and it will continue like this for a while. And now what they are saying is that they want to sell the Gaumont Cinema. They want to cut everything related to festivals. They want there to be no more festivals. They want to cut the Mar del Plata Film Festival, Historical, Ventana Sur, and all the festivals financed by Inca. Want to reduce it.
Events all over Brazil and in other cities around the world commemorated this March 14th, the 6th anniversary of the assassination of councilwoman Marielle Franco and her driver Anderson Gomes. The crime was committed in Rio de Janeiro in 2018, and so far the Brazilian state does not answer who had them killed and why. Let's see more details in the following report by our correspondent Adrián Vieira and Sebastián Soto.
The Church of Our Lady of Childbirth in Rio de Janeiro was full this March 14. Parishioners, representatives of different religions, and family members clamored for justice. 6 years ago, paramilitary gunfire took the lives of Marielle Franco and her driver Anderson Gomes. The black, bisexual, and human rights defender councilwoman was the victim of a political crime.
We cannot deny the pain and death, the structural systemic historical abuse against black people.
4 accused of planning and executing the crime are in custody, and 5 other suspects were killed over the last 5 years. This Thursday, the local media reported that the investigations reached the Supreme Court, since an investigated person was identified who can only be judged by the highest court of the country, legal right of deputies, senators, and the national executive.
It is unacceptable that our family and Anderson's family still have no answer as to who ordered her death. It is unacceptable that the perpetrators, those accused of the execution, are still not in popular justice, but we will reiterate that our family will continue to fight for justice, and we will be the continuation of her dream, and we will be resistant for her. Political violence in this country needs to end. It doesn't matter what your political position is. It doesn't matter who you vote for. We can no longer allow, under any hypothesis, is that we do not dialogue in favor of democracy.
The March for Justice for Marielle and Anderson was also joined by those who lost family members killed by the Rio de Janeiro police.
And we are in a new year without Marielle. She was with me the day of my son's death. She held my hand. She was with me all the time, so that's why I'm here today, to ask for justice for Marielle and Anderson.
The mourning turned into a struggle in the firm steps of these people. If the shots were to silence her voice and what she represented, Marielle Franco's legacy lives on and multiplies.
When we have a justification for the crime, it is not that the pain will be solved, but we will know that the state is looking at us, that the state is looking at Marielle's family, that the state is looking at the human rights defenders. Now we have a feeling of impotence. We have been asking the same question for 6 years. Who ordered to kill Marielle? And we have no answers.
The day ended with the Justice for Marielle and Anderson Festival in the territory of Little Africa in Rio de Janeiro.
André Vieira e Sebastián Soto, teleSUR, Brasil.
At least 52 people reported dead and 5 missing in Bolivia due to heavy rains, while the red alert remains in effect due to the danger of flooding. The Meteorological Monitoring Service assured that precipitations will continue until March 23rd, so it is necessary to maintain preventive measures. The Bolivian Minister of Defense, Edmundo Novillo, regretted the damage caused by the Rio Grande near Montero Hoyos in the department of Santa Cruz. For his part, the head of state, Luis Arce, gave instructions to undertake a reconstruction and rehabilitation plan for the areas affected by disasters in La Paz and the rest of the country. The Ministry of Environment and Natural Resources of El Salvador warned that the country is going through a strong heat wave that will continue for several days. The authorities indicated that they continue to monitor the heat wave, so they assessed that there is a possibility that there will be a deficit of rain and high temperatures. Likewise, the entity recommended citizens to take measures to protect themselves from the sun, heat and dehydration. Meanwhile, it is expected that the drought will decrease between June and August, and the cold event La Niña will arrive with cold temperatures and humidity. We have a final short break coming up, but before we invite you to join our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience, you can scan the QR code on screen to join directly and share the link to reach more people. Constant news coverage of Latin America and the Caribbean, as well as the rest of the world. Stay connected and informed with teleSUR. Financial break. Don't go away. Welcome back. In Russia, 23.02% voters turnout has been reported on the first day of presidential elections. The Central Election Commission has compared this turnout data with that of 2018 elections, which was 16.55% at noon in Moscow. More than 1.5 million people voted remotely. On the other hand, polling stations will be open until 8 p.m. local time, ending with the presidential election on March 17th.
We want our country to have a bright future, to be democratic, and to be friends with the whole world. We see our president at work, and we support him in his actions. We want everything to go well in all aspects of life, social, economic, and commercial.
In addition, the Russian Central Election Commission reported that more than 2.5 million Russians have already voted abroad. Likewise, the Commission's remote electronic voting portal indicated that the figure represented 53% of the number of those registered to vote remotely. The number is expected to increase by the close of the presidential elections on March 17th. On Friday, Ella Pamfilova, chairwoman of the Russian Central Election Commission, noted that from February 25th to March 14th, more than 2.3 million people voted early in the presidential elections. In this connection, it is good to note that the 2024 elections included the regions of Donetsk and Lugansk, People's Republic Zaporozhye, and Kherson. On the other hand, the Electoral Authority noted that in addition to more than 94,000 polling stations in Russia, 295 polling stations will be open abroad in 144 countries. In this sense, 4 candidates are running for president, including current leader Vladimir Putin, who is running as an independent and also is the favorite in the polls. In Tunisia, at least 35 people were injured after an explosion at an oil depot in the city of Rades near the capital. The spokesman of the civil protection of the country informed that among the injured, 4 of them are in serious condition and 19 others are with first and second degree injuries. The incident was caused by a gas leak which caused several gas cylinders to explode during a filling operation of the Tunisian National Oil Distribution Company. The fire department arrived at the warehouse with 10 trucks to dissipate the fire, together with 8 ambulances to transfer the wounded to the hospitals. And in Austria, the first museum of the actionist shock art movement opens its door in Vienna. The exhibition aims to highlight the individual development of 4 key artists who for a long time faced scorn and even persecution for their radical actions. Precisely with their performances in the 1960s, the Viennese shareholders Günther Bruss, Otto Moell, Hermann Nietzsche and Rudolf Schwarz-Kogler pushed the boundaries and did not hesitate to use blood, urine and excrement to challenge the limits of traditional painting. The inaugural exhibition will run until January 31st, 2025 and will show around a tenth of the collection that forms the basis of the museum.
The Vienna actionists basically asked profound existential questions. In other words, they dealt with both the body and the human psyche. We are in Vienna, the city of Sigmund Freud, very, very intensely and without taboos. And in doing so, they inevitably came into conflict with society, because then it doesn't just have sides that you like to see, but things that society likes to push away. And they simply show all of that.
We have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net and join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram and TikTok. For Telesur English, I'm Alejandra Garcia. Thank you for watching.